I'm ready. I have to go. I'm late for the trial.
At this point in the story, you're trying to kind of play with the pieces that we've got on the board. The wildfire was something that we had on the board. We knew from Jaime's conversation with Brienne that there was wildfire under the city. We know from episode 2 that there was wildfire under the city. Everything that Olenna says about Cersei earlier in the season is true, that she's got no more friends left. She has no more power left. Olenna asks her point blank, "What, are you gonna kill everyone yourself?" It's possible that she puts an idea in Cersei's head, or at least augments an idea that's already been in Cersei's head.
By the time that Lancel Lannister gets down there and sees that there is this massive catacomb and something suspicious is going on, I think you've got to start wondering, what the hell is this plot?
We see Marjorie's realizing slowly, horribly, like what is actually happening here.
Cersei understands the consequences of her absence, and she is absent anyway, which means she does not intend to suffer those consequences.
It's all been building up to this moment, and then, boom. She's really achieved a stunning, very surprising victory against everybody who's opposing her all at once. Meanwhile, while this is happening, Tommen's alone. This fragile, malleable, devastated child, basically, is sitting there without anybody to comfort him, and if she had been there, he wouldn't have gone out that window. She failed him, and she alone failed him here.
I think the idea of Cersei without her children is a pretty terrifying prospect, because it was the one thing that really humanized her, you know, her love for her kids. And as much of a monster as she could sometimes be, she was a mother who truly did love her children. And now those children are gone, and all she's got is power, and she's got a lot of it. I mean, she's the queen. She's sitting on the Iron Throne. I don't think that bodes well for anyone, really. And I think, you know, even for Jaime, who loves her, I think it's a terrifying moment. She's capable of doing anything, as she's proven in this episode, to get what she wants. And the real question now is, what does she want? Sansa, she does love her brother, you know, and they've had a conflicted past.
I'm not a Stark.
You are to me.
Over the course of this season, they've come to really rely upon each other, but she doesn't necessarily trust him completely. You know, she didn't tell him about the meeting with Littlefinger. She didn't tell him that she summoned the Knights of the Vale. There's definitely like a little hint of conflict there. We see that come out in episode 9, where she's, you know, at the War Council, where no one asks her opinion, despite the fact that she knows Ramsay better than anyone. So I think there's a little bit of anger about that, and a little bit of jealousy, and you know, that relationship will be crucial to watch.
You're the Lady of Winterfell. You deserve it. We're standing here because of you. The battle was lost until the Knights of the Vale rode in. They came because of you.
When we see the second King in the North scene with Jon, I think it was important to us that it evoked that first King in the North scene.
The King in the North! The King in the North!
It's very different circumstances, different environment. They're at Winterfell instead of, you know, military encampment.
We know no king, but the king in the north whose name is Stark. I don't care if he's a bastard. Ned Stark's blood runs through his veins. He's my king, from this day until his last day.
The King in the North! The King in the North!
In some ways, the evocation of the first one is meant to be a little bit worrisome, because, you know, it was a very triumphant moment when Robb is named King in the North, but it didn't go so well for the previous King in the North. So I think we have to be a little worried for Jon. And at the same time, you know, it's a pretty big reversal, and you know, for a character who was dead at the beginning of the season to be declared king at the end of it, he's done well. He's done well in 10 short episodes. Arya is someone who's Path has been very dark, and yet I think we all see where she's coming from. I mean, she's seen the Stark family endure so many atrocities, and she wants vengeance. In some ways, it's the cleanest narrative of them all. Well, this is a scene we've been looking forward to for quite some time. Her return to Westeros and her revenge upon Walder Frey.
For House Frey!
My name is Arya Stark. I want you to know that. The last thing you're ever going to see is a Stark smiling down at you as you die.
It's a worrisome narrative for Arya, because she started as this little girl who was always tough and plucky and whatnot, but she's become a murderer, and a highly skilled murderer. And even if the murders are justifiable, it's still, we've witnessed the descent of this girl into someone who's capable of slitting a man's throat and kind of smiling as she watches him bleed out. So that's, I don't think anyone's going to be crying over the fate of Walder Frey, but it's still, if you love Arya, you have to be a little bit worried about where she goes from here.
Tyrion had a very steep slope to climb to win Dany's trust. His family played an integral part in nearly exterminating her family. But at this point, especially given the hand he was dealt with Meereen after she left, has earned her trust. One of the few people in the world at this point who's willing to speak the truth to her face.
Mainly, he's proven himself to be very loyal. She's gone for most of the season, but he didn't abandon her. He didn't go off looking for the next person to rule. I mean, he was clearly trying to serve her interests while she was gone. Dany's not going to do anything she doesn't want to do. She's not going to take anyone's advice if it seems against her interests. And so when he recommends that she cut ties with Dario, she does it because she thinks he's right. The truth is, Tyrion's logic makes a lot of sense to her. He's not going to be a help for her when she gets to Westeros. She comes over there unencumbered, and as a queen without a king, that could be really useful in the future.
Who are you marrying this time?
I don't know.
Tyrion has become a very capable advisor in a relatively short time. She clearly respects his intelligence, and she now respects his loyalty. I think, especially given that she knows where they're heading. They're going back to Westeros. Most of the people on her team have never been there, but Tyrion spent his whole life there, served as Hand of the King before, defended King's Landing during an attack.
I'd swear you're my sword, but I don't actually own a sword.
It's your counsel I need.
He knows these families, the ruling families, better than anyone. He certainly knows Cersei better than anyone. So as long as she can trust him, which she does, he's the perfect advisor to her in the war for Westeros. He's the perfect hand to the queen, and that's why she names him such.
That shot of Dany's fleet with all of her newly arrayed allies making its way out of the Slaver's Bay towards the Narrow Sea and home. Probably the biggest single thing that's happened on the show thus far. It's the thing we've been waiting for since the pilot episode of the first season. The person she is now is very, very different from the person she was then. It hasn't been a smooth road. Feels like she has earned it at this point.
It's the shot that we're going to leave everyone with.
But it was a real thrill to see her on the bow of that ship with Tyrion by her side heading west. It's a ruthlessness that comes with even the good Targaryens. I mean, these are the people who came over from across the Narrow Sea and conquered the known world. It'd be very interesting to see how that plays out going forward.